Gen Alpha has a big problem. These kids born after 2010 are starting school, and their behavior is drastically different from other generations. Ugly man heads sticking out of toilets and singing in nonsense words went mega viral when posted by YouTube creator Defuck Boom. So what does skibbity mean? No one really knows. Unlike the other slang terms, it doesn't seem to have a fixed meaning.
Alright guys, today our fellow Gen Z Brits going to be checking out why brain walk will doom Gen Alpha. This one's going to be really interesting and insightful. It's coming from the Infographics Show, a channel that I'm very familiar with, a channel that I very much adore, man. I love their videos, and especially when it gets into the world of generational dynamics. You guys know I like to dive into that on this channel, being a Gen Zer. It's going to be really interesting to kind of see what they have to say about this. I'm anticipating it's going to be along the lines of how the internet and technology is affecting and shaping Gen Alpha, especially when this world of AI and this fast-paced, internet world that we're in. Look, I'm excited to get into this one. Of course, look, if you guys love these kinds of videos, don't forget to smash that like button. And if you're new here, subscribe to the channel, join the Flexer family, and join me on this journey of curiosity. What a journey it's been, and a journey that a lot of you newcomers are definitely not going to want to miss out on. But of course, guys, look, enough jibber jabber. With that being said, let's get straight into the video. Let's go.
It's a family reunion. The teens are throwing the football around, the uncles are having a burping contest, and Granddad is telling a very inappropriate war story. Fun all around. And 7-year-old Timmy notices none of it. He's glued to his iPad watching his favorite cartoon characters sing the same short song for the 40th time today. What's going on with Gen Alpha and screen time? Parents have always said it'll rot your brain about TV, video games, and what have you, but this time, could it actually be happening? We'll look into the grim future on this episode of the Infographics Show. Why brain rot will doom Gen Alpha. Gen Alpha has a big problem. These kids born after 2010 are starting school, and their behavior is drastically different from other generations. And it's not just teachers that are noticing it. The whole world is talking about it. The oldest are just entering middle school, and the youngest will be entering the school system soon. Teaching these kids is a whole new challenge. They're behind on the basics before they even start. In class, it's a struggle to get them to behave or concentrate, and they are almost dependent on their devices. Their attention span is the worst teachers have ever seen. Moral panic, false alarm, or something more. Gen Alpha is the third generation to come of age in the digital era.
Yeah, the attention span has definitely gone down, and I think that's something that's just been like it's been on a downward trajectory since the internet. Let's be real. Even if you look at the nature of how things go viral these days, like a thing will go viral for like a day, and then the next day everyone's moved on. Back in the early 2000s, something will go viral, and it will be viral for weeks and weeks and weeks. You know what I'm saying? And it will take a while before people could just move on to the next thing, but not anymore, man. The attention span is getting shorter and shorter, man. But yeah, this is probably gonna get worse unless some sort of intervention happens, man.
But the experience has been different for everyone. Millennials grew up in the age of the home computer, when the internet experience was mostly about browsing websites, playing games, and deleting your browser history before you logged off. Time on the computer was usually limited, and it didn't play a big role in entertainment. Gen Z was the first digital native generation, the first social media generation, and they grew up with devices. But smartphones still weren't too common when they were coming of age. To them, the internet was a tool and a way to socialize. But for Gen Alpha, everything changed. The majority of these kids were raised with a smartphone already in their hands. The focus of the internet had shifted from written material to videos and images, and that meant that they would be watching videos before they could talk or read. There were many warnings about the perils of this, with the WHO actually advising that kids under 5 should spend no more than an hour in front of screens, and kids under 1 shouldn't see them at all. But mom gets busy, dad wants some quiet time, and Junior gets placed in front of the iPad. And now we are seeing the consequences.
And that's how it goes,
For one thing, doctors have been studying the effects.
Because you can imagine, it's just so easy to just give your, kid an iPad and just let that just do the heavy lifting, and give you some time to while they're distracted. And it's so easy to just get lost into some random place on the internet, and something can just pop up, and you don't even know. Before you know, in an hour, your child's been exposed to something crazy on the internet, and you don't even know. You don't even know.
And now we are seeing the consequences. For one thing, doctors have been studying the effects of screen time on kids for a long time, and they're starting to see problems that haven't shown up in past generations. For one thing, a 2015 study showed that the frequency of nearsightedness had doubled in the United Kingdom in the last half a century, potentially related to heavy use of screens and the tendency to place them close to the face. Eye strain related to close-up use of handheld devices is a common concern, to the point that it's actually been nicknamed computer vision syndrome. Symptoms include dry, irritated eyes, eye strain, fatigue, and headaches. Given that all of this might make it difficult for kids to concentrate on books or read the board, it could be contributing to Gen Alpha's struggle in school. But could the problem be going deeper than just the eyes? In 2019, JAMA Pediatrics investigated whether the early use of screen time could actually alter the brain structure of kids. They took MRI brain scans of kids 3 to 5 and gave them cognitive tests after interviewing their parents on screen time habits. And the results were shocking. The kids who spent more than an hour alone on a screen had less developed white matter in the brain and generally showed lower linguistic and cognitive skills. This is the period where the brain develops most rapidly, so this could have lifelong effects. Gen Alpha kids are being set up to fail. Let's be honest, we all had our idiot trends as kids. Millennials were shouting, "Yo quiero Taco Bell," and "What's that?" at each other. Gen Z had annoying orange, it's not fair to place all the blame on Gen Alpha, but there is a difference. Millennials and Gen Z didn't grow up with screens playing constantly, burrowing into our brains like digital parasites. The internet landscape has completely shifted toward micro-content and viral videos.
This is what I'm saying.
With smartphones, kids can access it anytime, anywhere. And this all started with the rise of Baby Shark. We apologize if you now have that song in your head again.
Not Baby Shark.
That led to the rise of the content farm. The biggest culprit in this is YouTube, or rather the people who took advantage of it. While there are plenty of channels out there delivering great music, informative vlogging, or entertaining animated videos about news and science, there are also countless content farm channels pumping out short, low-effort videos, often featuring popular cartoon characters.
I've seen these,
dancing or doing silly skits. And these videos are designed to be catchy and addictive, intentionally designed to hook kids. And
no, they're so addictive. Like I said, I've seen some of these, the Gen Alphas that my mom child minds, and then what they're watching. I've watched some of these, and I'm like, okay, yo, these are really addicting. Like, you can tell the people that make these videos, they know what they're doing, man. Because even I was looking at those videos going, okay, well, if I was them, I would be just like just googly eyes just straight away. And it's a serious thing.
Them more of the same, locking kids into an endless loop of mind-numbing content,
and it goes on and on
as long as the parents allow them. And that's led to some scary statistics. There is no question that Gen Alpha kids are spending more time on devices compared to Gen Z. It's estimated that 39% of Gen Alpha spends at least 3 hours a day on screens, and 24% spends at least 7 hours. That's the majority of their waking hours. And it doesn't drop when they get older. Part of this isn't their fault. There was something big that happened a few years ago, and suddenly kids stopped going to school for nearly a year or more. They were quickly shifted to remote schooling. Part of this isn't their fault. There was something big that happened a few years ago, and suddenly kids stopped going to school for nearly a year or more. They were quickly shifted to remote schooling, spending all day on Zoom. And just like that, everything could be done on screens. And when it was time to shift back, the transition didn't go well. Teachers not only reported significant attention span issues, but serious behavioral problems too. These kids weren't just struggling to focus in class, they were getting into more fights, and not only had trouble mastering the material, but seemed completely uninterested. Many of them came in with strong opinions, some of which have no basis in reality, and they were belligerent when challenged on it. And the culprit once again was the internet. Micro-content is increasingly becoming the favorite way for Gen Alpha not only to be entertained, but to learn. And surprisingly, not everything can be learned in 1 minute. The main culprit is one of the biggest boogeymen at the moment, TikTok. This viral video site has been accused of everything from being digital crack to being Chinese spyware. But its biggest
digital to see what? Yeah, that if that is actually a great description of TikTok, because it really is addicting like that, man.
Of everything from being digital crack to being Chinese spyware, but its biggest
Right,
problem...
even I'll go on TikTok, like, because I create content, so the way I use TikTok is a bit different to how like majority of people would use it. But even me, like I'm aware of the tricks and things that content creators use to, like, you know, increase like click-through rate and increase like viewer retention, all these things. But even I still find myself, even though I'm aware of it, like probably more so than the average person, I still find myself going on TikTok for like a particular purpose, seeing a short that will come up that's been recommended to me, and I'll forget why I even came here in the first place. Like, it happens all the time. I'll go on TikTok for a reason, I'll be on there for 5 seconds and completely forget why I was on there. It's that addicting, man. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Might be that you can find everything there, including blatant lies. The site is notorious for hosting influencers who break down complex issues into short, easy-to-digest videos, often claiming to reveal the hidden truth that schools don't want kids to know. There's just one problem. Most of it is fake. After all, remember when Vladimir Putin opened up the oldest vault? If that doesn't make sense to you, you're not alone. But in 2024, a user on Twitter, X, went viral for claiming that the Russian dictator had opened something called the oldest vault, which contained portraits of biblical figures that proved they were all black. The only problem was this never happened. It was entirely made up, a conspiracy theory spun from debates about the origin of mankind. And before anyone could verify it, it had spread halfway around the world. And teachers are battling to catch up. The rise of short-form content on social media has left teachers struggling to compete and adapt to their students' new attention spans. A quarter of TikTok's users are between the ages of 10 and 19. And an in-house survey showed that most only want to watch videos a minute or less. Some teachers have started to adopt this format, posting fast-paced recaps of lessons on social media. After all, if you can't beat them, join them. This might work for some subjects, but as these kids get older, it'll become increasingly more difficult.
It will do,
and then there's the fact that some people say they can't understand Gen Alpha. Literally, is Gen Alpha talking a different language? Not really. Every generation has its own slang. But something is a little different about Gen Alpha slang, in that it often doesn't seem to have identifiable roots. It's been described as nonsense words, coined online seemingly out of nowhere and spreading super fast. Why is goblin mode used to mean rejecting social norms? How does throw it get turned into yeet? And as these phrases break containment, more and more older people are getting incredibly confused. And there is one phenomenon that might sum up all of these issues. If the term skibbity toilet fills you with confusion, you're probably not alone, and you're probably not 12. A bizarre viral video.
I still don't know what skibbity toilet mean, but I hear a lot of these guys, all these Gen Alpha say skibbity toilet, man.
Fusion. You're probably not alone, and you're probably not 12. A bizarre viral video involving ugly man heads sticking out of toilets and singing in nonsense words went mega viral when posted by YouTube creator Defuck Boom. First posted in 2023, it's now spawned hundreds of videos depicting humanity's war against these bizarre toilet creatures. With each video typically getting tens of millions of views and still coming off as completely Greek to the average adult. So, what does skibbity mean? No one really knows. Unlike the other slang terms, it doesn't seem to have a fixed meaning. A Gen Alpha fan might say, "That's so skibbity," and it can mean something's cool, or something's crazy, or something is bad, depending on the context. Good luck guessing.
Skibbity just seems like one of those like filler words you use when you can't really describe what you're really trying to say, but then it's like you just use it as like a filler word that it's supposed to like explain the nuance without having to explain it. That's probably the best way I could describe it. It's like you don't know how to say this, you don't know how to articulate this word, so you just shout skibbity that, and then you feel like there's like an intuitive aspect of it where you assume the person that you said it to kind of can understand what you're trying to say, but you just use skibbity as a way of saying, do you get what I mean? Like in my head, skibbity's like a way of saying, you get what I mean without saying, you get what I mean. Like for those things that you can't describe. It's like, you understand what I'm trying to say? But then instead of saying that, they just say skibbity. And the person's like, oh, skibbity. And it's like, I get what you're trying to say. I could be wrong. I probably am wrong. But this is different.
It's crazy, or if something is bad, depending on the context. Good luck guessing. Gen Alpha slang culture, lack of attention span, and lack of traditional socialization has led many teachers to quit, and it's caused a bit of panic among adults.
Imagine.
Millennials are typically the parents of Gen Alpha kids. Are they raising a group of ill-mannered internet addicts with brain rot? Gen Alpha doesn't think so. Gen Alpha is the first to admit that they're a digital generation, but teen influencers say it's opened them to experiences no one else has had. They say that being able to get the news from alternative sources allows them to cut through mainstream media bias. They defend short-form content as a way to learn a little about a lot, and they say that the internet has allowed them to be creative in ways no one else had the opportunity to. A perfect example is the website Roblox, which over half of American kids under 16 belong to. This gaming site offers children the chance to code their first video games in a safe and affordable environment.
Some people making a lot of money off
of
that.
Things they think are positives are a double-edged sword. Gen Alpha is more open online than any generation before them, continuing a trend that started with Gen Z. Many of them are discovering their gender identities at an earlier age, or realizing that they may be on the autism spectrum, often thanks to influencers sharing similar experiences. But this has also led many to overshare online and reveal a lot of information about them. The term stranger danger has no meaning to these kids, and parents struggle to regulate their online behavior. But there are some signs that things are changing. Gen Alpha social media has largely been influenced by Gen Z influencers, and phenomena like book talk have made many of them interested in reading again. This generation is just developing its interests, and it's impossible to predict a generation's long-form trajectory just from their online behavior. But one thing is for sure, these kids are being influenced by the digital world in ways no other age group ever was, and it is not possible to know how this will play out long-term yet. For the first time, these kids aren't solely being raised by their parents and schools. There's a third parent in the room, the algorithm. Unlike the internet of millennials and even Gen Z, most of the sites Gen Alpha frequents are driven by algorithms that adapt to their interests, encouraging them further and further down the same rabbit holes. That can make it harder to redirect kids, and these are the kids who spent their formative years during the pandemic, and that kind of disruption is hard to overcome. And so the traditional 40-minute school period is becoming more and more of a challenge, which is why some teachers are being proactive. They can't undo Gen Alpha brain rot on their own, but they can work around it. More and more teachers are adapting their lessons, breaking them up into short lectures and short work periods, keeping things fresh and not letting the kids get bored. If Gen Alpha's brains have been rewired, then the educators of the world will simply have to find a way to work with that and reinvent learning. Of course, there is another option, but the kids won't like it. Schools around the country have been considering cell phone bans during school hours, including in districts in New York, which are looking to bring back a ban that was lifted in 2015. This will essentially be a daily digital detox, allowing the kids' brains to hopefully reset and give them no choice but to focus on what the teacher is saying.
That's gonna be hard for them.
To say the reaction from Gen Alpha has been negative would be putting it very lightly. And that is definitely not skibbity. Or is it? Want to know more about the craze that's sweeping Gen Alpha?
This has been actually a really insightful video. I'm so curious to see what you guys have to say about that. I mean, obviously, because from the videos I've been checking out, it's especially when you go back to before the internet days, like the analog days, as a lot of people call it. It's like, you know, you have a lot of individuals that, you know, will embrace the real world. You were high off of life in a way, and it's like a lot of your interaction, your day-to-day, your formative years are spent outside on your bike, do you know what I'm saying, patrolling unknown areas, abandoned places, and just doing God knows what. You know, your parents don't even know where you are, you know, as they say, you know, all of that stuff. And you compare that to, like, you know, the post-analog days now, where we've got a whole new kind of beast in the making, which is the beast of the algorithm and the internet. And now it's more of a thing of, like, you just don't know what kind of things your children could be diving into, like what content that they could be like being fed, and before you know it, your kid could be thinking God knows what, or in some whatever rabbit hole. It's like a whole new kind of beast we're dealing with now. I guess every generation has its thing, and I guess the thing here is to see, like, you know, how is this generation how do we navigate Gen Alpha through this? Because we can see already attention spans going down the roof, going off a cliff, and that's going to have drastic impacts. And you could also see just how much, like, Gen Alpha are, like, just glued to their phones and how that's impacting them, especially during their, like I said, formative years. And I don't know, look, I would love to get a lot of you guys perspective, especially of those of you guys a lot older than myself, having seen similar, maybe some trends going on previous generations, and you can't get like, is this another one of those history repeating itself? Is this another one of those situations where, you know, it always starts off like you're always worried about the next generation, but then, you know, they always end up figuring out in the end? I'd love to know what you guys have to say about this. Look, if you made it to this point, comment down a blue heart so I know who my runners are who made it to this point in the video. Yeah, if you know what skibbity toilet means, you got shout. Let me know it was all in the comments below, because you know you were definitely in the 1%. If you're not an Gen Alpha watching this, I guess I didn't even know if Gen Alpha know what that means, to be fair. But yeah, guys, look, that's my reaction to this. Look, if you like these kinds of videos, I got a playlist links at the end of the video you can check out, and of course don't forget to smash that like button. If you guys enjoyed the video, it'll do me a big favor as well. And of course, guys, look, I've been your boy JayFlex, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.